Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Trekyards. I'm Captain Foley.
I'm Kongs. Welcome back, guys. Welcome to a great episode of Trekyards. I think. I don't know what's happening, so I'm just gonna go be positive.
Well, we're playing hide and seek. You're supposed to come find me.
Oh, well, okay. See, you're under the desk, next to the phaser rifle and the gold pressed platinum bars, but not past the M5 computer. Is that? Yep. Hey, see, there you go.
You found me.
Yes.
Hi, guys. It's hide and seek time. That's right. Episode 9 of Picard Season 2.
Yes, and we're hiding our review score, but you can find that in our full breakdown live tonight. 2-hour review at least. Go check it out. And at the end, you'll seek our final review. But Stuart, I'm so eager to hear what you think of this penultimate episode. What do you think of Picard Season 2, Episode 9?
I give less than 2 squirts about young Picard and his mother, and half this episode was that, and that annoyed the shit out of me. Other than that, it's been pretty interesting. I rather enjoyed the rest of it with Girardi and the Borg Queen thing, and even the Rios stuff. I thought, oh, he's not going to be able to get back, and then, oh, he does get back, and the whole Teresa trying to keep him there thing, and him like, no, I thought about that, but I made my decision. Loved all that. But the Picard stuff with his mom, I just don't care. Although it was nice to see Baltar again for a minute. It was just kind of alright again. It's still not that well, it's one of those ones that leaves you wanting next week, which is what a show's supposed to do, I suppose. I'm kind of confused also by the ending. But hey, we're going to see where this goes. And yeah, I liked it well enough. I think it's better than last week's. How about you?
I have so many convoluted, complex thoughts about this one after finishing it. I don't think I like it really at all, but it's really hard to kind of like break it down because we certainly assumed this would be the end of the 2024 story and go into the future next week. And that is not what's going to happen. I'm massively disappointed because I do not care about Rene Picard at all. I do not want to see the big villain be Sung. To end the Borg Queen in this way felt very underwhelming, massively. I'm so over this season, it's poor storytelling, to give us this. You know, like we have to wait until season 3 to have good storytelling again, and it's like, well, damn, you know. So just that ending alone is very, wow, and part of that ending is things like, you know, Picard's obviously dealing with his mum's storyline, fine, but at the end they haven't got communicators at this point, presumably, or have they? I don't know. There's a disconnect between all of their concern about this ship leaving, which is the thing they're trying to stop. You know, Picard should have been when he's in the greenhouse thing and he's looking up and it warps. Potentially they haven't communicated with him that the Borg Queen's leaving, and so he should be like, no, we failed. But it's like, oh, it's fine. There's a big disconnect of tension here. That is literally saving the universe level deathness, and Picard and especially Talon are just meandering around. Talon is we assumed a quality agent. She's clearly not, given her reaction to this episode. She's lackluster to say the least. She should be trained and. Gary Seven was not necessarily the biggest trained ever, but that's weird. And then Seven and Raffi kind of just meandering through the story, and then we get to the ship, and then the tension we should feel with a Borg Queen from alternate reality who's more advanced, assimilating an entire strike team with guns who are Borg now, attacking, and it felt so cheap, so underwhelming, and the Borg felt a zero-sum threat. So it was a faulty premise, faultily executed in my opinion, and I honestly enjoyed the Baltar stuff more when he was in the scenes. I'm thinking, what can they do with this little relationship? Because we're never going to see this again. But we knew from TNG she wasn't meant to die, and they retconned that right out, which I don't like, because I was thinking the entire time, well, we know she doesn't die, and then, oh, she does die. Oh, okay, that is a retcon.
At least they fixed that with a line of dialogue.
Oh, yeah, but it's like, okay, you retconned that. It wasn't good, you know? And you almost didn't need any of the Borg warrior stuff, because that just made it feel even worse. Because, I'm sorry, these 4 people cannot win against 60 armed soldiers with 2 weapons they barely use. Like, Borg just walk forward and shoot. That's their entire MO. It's poor. It's really poor.
Let's start with the mom thing. Yes, it's interesting that she killed herself. That's sad and all, but I'm like, really? They're doing this? Because this is not what we see in TNG. And then he has that line of, I used to imagine her, old, asking me for a chat. It's like, okay, well, all right, they fixed that. Good job. It was so much wasted time on that, and you're right about the Talon and Picard just kind of meandering. It's like, yes, we have something to do. There are soldiers outside. There's a ship we need to save. But follow your memory, Picard. This is important. We can't do this in 20 minutes. No, we need to do this right now.
And it's fine if Picard himself was in a stupor and doing it, but then Talon should have been doing something really productive in each of those scenes. Like, there should have been like cutaways to her beating up soldiers and while they're trying to kill Picard or something. Just to have her walk around doing nothing, why even have her on set except to allow Patrick to act against somebody?
It was like the Counselor Troy role. If Troy was around, she would have been doing that because she's not much of the action type, but she would be helping him through it. So yeah.
I mean, it's at least a closure, so it shouldn't be a Season 3 storyline, which is good, because these storylines are not strong enough to be in Season 3. We do not want these storylines in Season 3. Ignore them, move on, push forward. And I want to see more Boltar stuff, because if the dad clearly is sort of the hero in this story. Like, he had to deal with his wife's illness for his entire marriage, we assume, and then to raise 2 boys by himself, single father. What a bloody hero! And to raise such strong people, one of which that took over the vineyard and a successful wine business. The second one became one of the legendary Starfleet captains. I wish they had given him more time, because he's a bloody hero of the Picard family, isn't he?
There's a reason for the resentment that Robert and probably Picard's dad have towards Picard, because he's the one that got her killed essentially by letting her out.
Kid didn't know better, and I like Picard even said I shouldn't have done that. You know, like knowing like I was a kid, I was wrong.
And his brother would have been pissed about that his mom died while he was away, and then holds that against him. That actually explains family a little bit better with the resentment that they have for each other, or he has towards Picard at least, which would have fostered resentment in Picard.
Because Picard doesn't remember. It's literally broken down his brain, doesn't remember. So he's like, why does he hate me so much?
And also Picard talked about his dad being so strict and kind of distant, and yes, of course, after something like that, you probably would hold a little bit of resentment towards the person responsible, even though they are your kid. You'll try to still do the best for them, but you're going to be a little bit more cold shoulder. So that actually kind of works a little bit and explains a little bit of some other stuff. But
what it was desperately missing was the brother.
Yeah.
Desperately. There needed to be a scene where we, after the hanging scene, which is a horrible thing to say, where we see Robert beam in, because you can beam places, he could have been there in a day, and you see Gaius Picard talking to both of them as brothers, saying something really meaningful. Because to not even mention Robert once is a massive disservice to the point of the character.
Just even have the Robert like had his head hung, have Boltar put his hand on his back, and then they both turn and look at Picard and cut there. It's like, that's all you needed. Yeah.
It's the opposite of Michael Burnham's Spock. They actively erased a brother rather than invented a sister. Like, he's important. How would he interact with his family? You know, being being an only child changes the dynamic versus being a brother. So that was a big omission. I kind of assumed they'd be in this week.
Another thing too, at the end there, are all the soldiers dead? Did they manage to kill them all? Because I didn't get that impression. So there's still Borgified people wandering around.
It was implied 7 beamed them all into walls because she would just keep beaming till there were no signatures.
That's fine. Okay. That's great for the structural integrity of the chateau.
Wow. Oh my god. So wait, so that means that future Picard presumably bumped into dead, decaying corpses of Borgified metal skeletons with rifles?
No, because this is a different timeline.
Yes, it is. Existed. But I think they're gonna mess it up massively out in different timelines. Because giving 7 of 9 her implants back is meaningless because they're gonna get erased for the next timeline jump. So why even bother?
Well, I didn't mind her getting them back. I just wish they didn't look so perfect like they should. Wish they looked more primitive. And then when they change the timeline and it resets, then she's got the perfect ones back.
Well, they should look different. I was expecting a full Borg transformation because it's not like the Borg Queen doesn't necessarily. Like, yes, she can sense timelines. Doesn't mean she's going to remember the alternate timeline, exact remnants of Borg implants that she had once she'd been de-assimilated by a doctor from Voyager. There should be different things that, like you say, are just kind of like stuck on. And if she could easily make this technology in 5 seconds, why won't all the other Borg soldiers also having pieces? Like it felt like a fairy tale ending. Like, oh, we can just make this out of nowhere. It's like, no, you can't. It doesn't work. And like I say, it's erased anyway because it's alternate timeline stuff, so it doesn't matter. I don't know the point. It would have been really fun. I assumed he was going to fully assimilate her. She was going to kind of go Borgy every second and like, well, shit. Now Joey Ryan is fully Borg for an episode. Well, damn. That's a thing we got to deal with. But no, they kind of, I don't know what they did there.
I kind of like the Jurati twist with the Borg Queen. Like, let's form a cooperative, not a collective. Like help salvage or help damaged vessels and bring them into our. I don't know how that would work necessarily. Like, hey, we assimilated you and we helped you. Sorry about that, but you can help us now, I guess. It's like the Canadian Borg. It's like they're all friendly and stuff.
Put it this way, not a single writer from Star Trek's TNG, Voyager, DS9 Enterprise would ever have written this as a storyline. It would have been off the desk instantly as a concept. Now, it works better because she's an alternate universe Borg Queen with all of those other alternate universe traits. So we have no idea. Which gets you the JL free card, but also I don't care. There's an alternate timeline. She's going to go off and do something and not affect our timeline. Now, presumably she'll be the Borg Queen that comes into our timeline, but also that can't exist given their own time travel logic, as we know. So it just felt meaningless to me. And Borg Queens don't do that. Like, it's such a anti-Borg theory in concept. I get Jurati's infecting her, but a Queen should be the epitome of assimilation ability, given they are the center of the universe when it comes to the Borg, so everything should have been erased from the brain. It seems like a faulty logic from the start. Even though it's interesting, it's like it's not very Borgy.
Speaking of Borgy, I kind of like the fact that Seven said, yeah, I tried to join Starfleet, but because I was Borg, they wouldn't let me. Janeway went to bat for me. She threatened to resign. Got a Janeway mention. And then Rafi's like, hey, maybe when I get back, I'll like throw my weight around and be like, it's like, we're not gonna get out of this. It's like, oh, okay.
Yes, it's good, although I again don't buy the Starfleet wouldn't let her in Starfleet.
I don't either.
I mean, maybe
after her service history.
I can imagine a very prejudiced admiral who lost his or her husband, wife, children at Wolf 359 said this is not worth the risk because Jerry could in theory assimilate people. Like, the nanoprobes are transferable, so she's a threat every day. So that, if they'd said more implicitly, like, that's the reason she's a safety risk. But given the level of credibility, and given Picard came back from the Borg and he still did stuff afterwards, and then Hugh as well, and yeah, it seemed odd. But I like the implied, well, in season 3 she will be Starfleet, because we like, damn it, we don't want to do Fenris Ranger shit. We're just going to make her Starfleet, get her in a uniform, push forward positive. That's kind of the implication I got. We want to give her a meaningful part in the season by making her Starfleet and kind of like righting that wrong of season 1, who obviously those are the team that wrote this Fenris Ranger nonsense. So we can erase that by season 3. I don't know, what do you think about that?
That's kind of the vibe I got too, but I don't think she's going to be in Starfleet. I really don't. I think she's going to just decide not to. I don't know. I don't think it's going to be a thing, but...
No, I think with all the new XBs and such, the Borg are less looked down upon. Even though still some. I think that Starfleet itself has kind of grown a bit. It's more accustomed to it. It's not far enough from the, the massive genocides almost of Starfleet ships of the past from Borg. But I just didn't like their meanderingness, and the lack of really seeing the sets. It felt like a very cheap episode. It's like we have these internal sets and we have less arena. Everything else is CG in between, but we can use it because it's very expensive. So it felt very, very cheap episode. Everything was a reuse. Everything. It was
But Elnor was back.
Everything was a reuse, yeah.
As an emergency combat hologram.
Which makes sense for a Confederation ship to have. That was fine. Although, given that he was a rebel that the ship only had on board for maybe 5 minutes, why is the ship actively brain scanning all of the crew at all times to download their memory files, which in itself seems unlikely, to be able to replicate them fully, to have the full neural net pathway? This isn't less arena. The ship has no idea who he is except the 5 minutes on board. Really? Are you saying that's what the ship did? I guess so. Because he just beamed aboard right at the end of the episode and they said, let's go. And then they beamed aboard and tried to kill them. It was minutes. Does that mean they have a full brain scan of Picard and Rios? Well, yes, it does. It's like, oh, okay. Again, it was a bit fairy tale for me. It was a leap of logic.
Well, that's kind of a good word for this entire season. We've got the little Picard running around with a crown on, being a prince, and the mom being the queen, and it's got kind of a fairy tale elements to it, for sure.
And he also should have gone with guns. He would have been better with guns. Because he's the computer, so he has access to all the gun subroutines. He wouldn't need to download the sword subroutine. He has guns. Like, just 2 rifles. It's more effective. I mean, yeah, well, and especially as Borg can, like, assimilate from close range, and they can grab your mobile emitter, which apparently he has, even though it's a Confederation mobile emitter, blah, 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 whatever. Like, range is your friend here. Because they've got assault rifles that have limited accuracy.
Yep. Yep, I thought the same thing, grab the guns, but... Now, the ending, the Queen taking the ship and buggering off, how are they going to get back to the future? And what does there must be 2 Renees, one who lives, another who dies? What does that mean? I was going to be confused, because we still have the Q storyline to finish up. Apparently now we have to make sure this Renee launch happens and stop Soong as well. So we got Soong and Q working
and the
together.
daughter.
Yeah. All in one episode. I'm concerned. We're going to have maybe a cliffhanger.
I was so hopeful they were going to rush into the future and move past this and get to the proper story. I was kind of thinking also in some small way that they were going to wrap it up slightly better. Well, obviously, but I get the sense that they're actually going to do the opposite. They're going to live in this timeline, die, because they're people, but then because the Borg Queen has now changed the timeline, she's now a new queen, she becomes a queen later on, and then it's a linear paradox. And then because she undoes the present, it then... But then we just kept going. We're just like, now I have to go stop Renee. I'm like, you still care about Renee? Why do we still care about Renee? Soong's been fired. He just spent all his money on assassins. He's a criminal. Like, how has he got resources still? It's like the end where it's a film where you think that would make sense as a good ending, and then suddenly a character does something stupid, and it's like, oh my god, we're going this direction? Oh, don't do that. Please don't. Oh no. And then it ruins the film.
They can use Talon's transporter to get back, I assume, but Soong can't. And considering how he beamed to France, does he have his passport? How is he going to just? I mean, you'd have to have some illegal friends that you know.
That's amazing.
Hop you with planes, I guess.
At least it's like a 2-day pause to the next episode because he has to physically get to LA again. That's hilarious.
Well, the launch is the next day, so he won't be able to get back on time unless he gets a flight right away.
Private jet at maximum speed. Yeah, I thought honestly the Soong would be like, well, he left, he's done. Like, he's in France, he's screwed, that's it. Left, done. Again, this timeline gets erased, so it doesn't matter what happens to Adam Soong. He's not going to be relevant in our future because this didn't happen. So, that's a good point. He shouldn't be next episode.
Well, he might not be. It might just be all Q facing off against these guys. But the Q storyline, I think, needed more than one episode to wrap up, considering the last reel we got that he was dying.
Well, he's in season 3. We know he is, so he's not wrapped up. There's still be.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'm gonna leave in these thinking pauses because that's us trying to reel from what we just watched. I'm normally I edit them out a little bit, but I'm gonna keep them in this time.
I don't know. I don't know what else to talk about. I'm just confused by it all.
This was our last hope. Seriously, they can finish off their subplots, move into a brighter, better future, and erase this timeline because that's what has to happen. If you had told me back in 10 weeks ago we'd spend 9 episodes in 2024...
We were hoping for 4 at the most, as I recall.
At the most, yeah. Final 3.
But we had a fear that would be the whole season.
Well, you did. I had no. I was convinced it made no sense. They've saved so many millions on this season. They went so cheap to save money. They bottom doled this one.
But you got to think next season, because they have all the TNG cast back, they don't have to pay Girardi necessarily. They don't have to pay Elnor.
Well, yeah, but one episode of Frakes costs 10 times an Elnor, so...
Yeah.
I'm not looking forward to next week.
It was good for a 3-episode arc, your little story here, your 10 episodes. You could have done something in the future for the last part. Just saying. Oy.
And I was bored. Honestly, because the battle wasn't interesting, the fights weren't interesting, the fact that everything was so easy was not interesting... People got injured and didn't matter was not interesting. Because was interesting, but like in a gentle sort of okay, whatever, moving on sort of like at least it was But we do know that Seven and Raffi can successfully run 50 meters through an army of drones, all with machine guns, successfully and kill them all. That just happened.
That visual was ridiculous. Slit somebody's throat on the way, but then there's like, it's basically like the rice fields in Vietnam, in the Vietnam War scene, just GIs everywhere firing guns on an open plain, and yet somehow they made it through.
And it's totally waved off as like, and now the next scene. Again, it's a fairy tale. Things just happened. Because you can also, if I was writing this, you'd also argue that these are now Borg drones, to some extent, where they can now actually keep their guns steadier than a human could. So they should have pinpoint accuracy, because they can process, they should have no recoil now, because they're part machine. So they should be perfect aim. And they're firing 30 rounds a second, they should be, they should murder them instantly. And I was kind of expecting them both to die, to up the stakes for next week. Now we've killed most of our cast, they have to reset the timeline, boom. And they live, and it's like, why did they live? And also, you know, the fact these assassin guys, they're shooting in the whole middle, they're just shooting at the house. It's like, they have limited ammunition, first of all. They're going to run out in, you can literally, even with like 4 or 5 mags, you can run out in under 2 or 3 minutes.
Maybe their nanobots are just feeding new bullets into the gun, just from their hand. Just creating new bullets.
So I just thought that was dumb. Just misunderstanding of what's happening. Like, they don't know how machine guns work anyway, or assault rifles. But also, they should, in theory, be walking close to the building all the time. So at that point, they should be at the doors, which means they should just walk in and kill them. I did like the fact they used green lasers, because that's obviously, they have some Borginess in them. That was nice. But, failed concept otherwise. And why was Sung just leisurely walking at a very slow pace? Finds them somehow, again, finds them again somehow, again, finds them again somehow, at such a chill pace to be like, do you not want to find them? Is this not your entire future? Why aren't you going at a speed? Just...
On that note, let us know in the comments what you thought about this episode. We want to hear what you have to say, guys. So if you want to join us for a live later tonight, it'll be at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join us and kind of chime in real time and hang out with us, and as we go through scene by scene and break it down, and usually find more like answers to our questions sometimes, or raise other questions. So it's always fun. So make sure you're part of the community by clicking that join button if you're able to. Obviously, like the video, and don't forget to just hang out with us anytime you have an opportunity to.
And join us live. So if you super chat any amount, we will always read them. So if you actually have a thing you want to say and the entire audience to hear, boom, super chat, it's said, it's done, whole conversations are caused because of that. And we rely on those to support the channel, what we do here and what we want to do here going forward into all the new shows and more. So Patreon, PayPal, join the channel on YouTube, or commenting as well. It is free and does help the analytics. Please help if you can. Thanks in advance.
So until next time, guys, he's Commander Cock.
He's got a Foley.
Cover your eyes and count to 3. You gotta find me.
If I don't find him, though, I can be the new Borg King of Trekyards. So, yeah, I'll just let him go off to the Delta Quadrant, and I'll hang out here. And oh, he's even got a Borg like spinny thing. So